Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening on the over in Europe. Afternoon in Seattle. High noon in Seattle. Mid-afternoon on the East Coast. Evening in Europe, and morning over in Asia. So welcome to the weekly webinar. A little bit of housekeeping up front as always. We're going to take Q&A at the end of the session today. So be sure to use the question feature on your control panel to ask your question. And then next week we have StorageCraft with SaaS Backup to join us next Thursday with StorageCraft for SaaS Backup. We are deep into planning for the first half of 2017 and what the workshop schedule will be, the nature of the workshops. Love your feedback. Helps us craft what direction we're going. And a couple of surprises we'll be able to announce in a few weeks after some more planning. And then don't forget we have a Sunday paper every Sunday coming at you with analysis and content that's also repurposed up on our website. So today, without further ado, we have our friends at Ooma. They have been a long-time supporter of SMB Nation. Boy, howdy. They were there in the trenches with us during the Windows XP migration era. On that was 44 workshops. So we appreciate that. And the conversation today is transform your company's business communications. And what's interesting about this is I am a big fan, along with a lot of people who are part of SMB Nation, about the marriage of voice and data. So with that marriage made, sir, I'm going to hand it over to Tim Sullivan down in California. Tim, introduce yourself. Let's rock. I'm going to interrupt you along the way.
Oh, please do. Any questions you have, Harry, you just pass them right along as we go along. Of course, Q&A will be at the end. Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Sullivan. I'm Vice President of Sales here at Ooma Incorporated in Palo Alto, California. And we really appreciate the folks at SMB Nation for having us in this week to talk a little bit about voice communications, business communications, and how things are changing and what opportunities that opens up in our community. I like to start usually with kind of with the key takeaways, and I think the most important things to take away, there are two, and one is that the opportunity in the transition to digital and voice communications is very large, and the most important thing too is that you don't have to be a domain expert to take advantage of it. Webinars like this are great. You learn a little bit about the opportunity, enough that you feel comfortable recommending it to your clients if you are not a specialist in voice over IP, for example. But certainly if you're not an expert, it's important to partner with the right company. We think we're certainly that kind of company. So we'll tell you a little bit about voice communications, but also a little bit about Ooma today. So the landscape is changing. You're all seeing it happen. Mobile and remote workers are causing a significant shift in the way voice communications is managed. New technology, of course, is disrupting a lot of established ways that businesses communicate, the old phone service. Voice over IP, which is basically internet telephony, also known as cloud technology in this particular instance, which is hosting the PBX in the cloud, is a lot more nimble and reliable than traditional plain old telephone service. You can do a lot more with it. You have a device on premises, oftentimes an IP phone, and in our case, either an IP phone or an on-premise router, and you can do a lot of great things. There's huge cost savings. There's tremendous cost savings to be had from voice over IP compared to traditional phone systems, but also even voice over IP setups with big servers on premises. A lot has happened as that functionality has shifted to the cloud.
Hey, Tim, question. Yeah, question for you, if you don't mind. This
Sure.
audience was introduced to voice more or less about 10 years ago with the first release of Microsoft Response Point, and then that product went away, as Microsoft occasionally does. That product went away about 36 months later, but it certainly got their appetite up for telecommunications. But back then, what's interesting is there was a very relevant reliability conversation between POTS and voice over IP. And that conversation seems to have kind of disappeared 10 years later. I mean, is the broadband better? Something got better because, we used to have voice warbles and all that, and I just don't see it anymore.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and really that had to do with the amount of bandwidth that it really requires to manage one phone call and then multiple phone calls on one connection to the internet. Of course, the expansion of broadband has blossomed, and just that wider pipe has made it much easier to deliver voice communications, but it's still a major issue, that call quality issue that you mentioned. And as I go into a little bit here, I mean, if you're you've got full fiber, enterprise grade broadband, really you're going to end up with fairly good voice over IP. But if you are a small business, and that's kind of where we're focusing in this webinar on the opportunity, if you're a small business, you're not likely getting that big pipe. You're not paying large amounts for throughput for bandwidth. And when you transition to voice over IP, you're going to be running into some of those old problems that we used to have in the early days of voice over IP at large enterprise level. So yeah, we'll address a little bit of that and how we think we've got some technological solutions to that problem. So just a quick comparison on the on-premises PBX, cable providers, mobile phones today versus Ooma Office as an example of voice over IP. You get a lot more packed in for a lot less dollars. There's still, still a large installed base of on-premise PBX, and you get a lot of features that that you expect in business telephony, but you don't get location independence or device independence that you get with a cloud-based system. So that's one of the biggest reasons, particularly with people working from the home, or you're always carrying your office around with you, even at 30,000 feet on a cross-country flight. That location independence is particularly vital to today's businesses. So the legacy systems, I mean, they're not that flexible. Equipment's difficult to maintain. It's super expensive. So it's been limited to large enterprises, 50, 100 employee installations. Those are the only people that used to be able to get these kinds of functions. And it could take days to repair if things were down, and investing in new infrastructure is particularly costly with multiple locations, and trying to knit together independent locations was always a problem. With a cloud system, not surprisingly, as you do with a lot of other processes and systems, you get all that functionality based in one location in the cloud, and you draw from it over your particular pipe and your internet connection. So anywhere you have internet connection, you have access to all that capability. It also means quick deployment. That's particularly important in setting up your customers. You don't have to spend a lot of time on premises. It eliminates a lot of upfront costs for on-site servers, that kind of thing. Firmware upgrades are handled in real time over the cloud. And you can add new numbers, new users easily. So there's a lot more flexibility in the cloud-based system, which is why there's such a move to cloud systems. Now, how big is the opportunity? Well, it's huge. Where a lot of you in your home are using either mobile only, perhaps, or have transitioned to voice over IP in the home through digital voice with your cable operator, or perhaps even an Ooma Telo, let's say, which is part of our heritage in voice over IP to the home. There's about 50% of households are voice over IP that are still with a traditional home phone. So the penetration there is pretty strong, but in business, not such big penetration, that is, which means the opportunity is still very large. And it's growing at 33% annual growth rate recently, with only 18% of the lines in the U.S. Being internet-based, which surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah, with the grid to the right, this is particularly interesting, and this is part of the way we see the market and why we are focused on the small business opportunity. There's about 1.2 million what you call enterprise, greater than 10 employee businesses. These are the big guys who are while they are switching to the cloud, they're doing a lot of mobility. They're still big RFQs that they're sending out to people in our space, and they're really hard customers to land. There's not very many of them. It takes a lot to land them, and margins get really squeezed because of their size. But if you look down into the smaller business and the non-payroll firms, there's like 25 million businesses out there that are ripe to convert to voice over IP. 4.5 million small businesses of 1 to 10 employees, and then just 21 million non-payroll firms out there, what I would call micro SMB or what we refer to as SOHO. So keep those numbers in mind. So the issues, issues with providing service to these guys is, as I mentioned earlier in the call, and as Harry brought up, call quality with voice over IP is so dependent on your bandwidth. And when you're dealing with these micro businesses, even what we call SOHO, internet quality is not quite there yet. They're not real, high broadband throughput. So voice over IP becomes problematic. So, the opportunities.
Tim,
go ahead.
Yeah, Tim, I have a question about that pie chart that you had and the opportunity. Sure. And the idea. What I want to ask you, is there a geography issue here? Because, if we learned anything in this last month, those of us on the West Coast kind of live in a bubble, and
yeah.
we're blessed with tech, and so apparently, the Midwest is I'm just envisioning some small towns in the Midwest where they're still using POTS lines, because quite frankly, in Seattle, I don't see it that much, right? So I kind of want to do a sanity check here based on geography, if you've ever studied that or seen that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of data down in that level of granularity on small businesses' conversion to voice over IP on the coast. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising where there's higher broadband availability or fiber availability, you get faster adoption of voice over IP than perhaps the hinterlands where people might have been using dial-up until recently in some cases, because even cable companies aren't servicing some of those smaller communities. There are solutions in those smaller communities like wireless ISPs, and a lot of those local regional ISPs are converting to LTE to deliver internet. So it's coming along. The next 2 years, I think you're going to see an incredible amount of penetration of broadband. But even with that, some of my best-selling reseller partners are in major metro areas like Los Angeles, where you would think there would be a pretty widespread penetration of broadband, but they're still leveraging our solution because internet quality is not all that consistent, or a business might not be spending that much on their internet to buy the higher throughput. We're in Palo Alto, and we think everybody's got what we've got, perhaps, but that's not entirely the case. So we think there's a huge opportunity, almost no matter where you are. So again, about these micro SMBs, the things that you're facing if you're actually doing service and install. You roll a truck for, $150 or more just to get the truck out on its way to a customer. Time on premises can be really expensive, and if you're talking about a 5-employee business, you really ask yourself, is that a business I can even afford to service? And that's that 21 million businesses that we talked about. There's a lot of 5 and 10 employee businesses. So it's a big opportunity that really requires a solution to solve the problem of how much it costs to service them. Hosted VoIP, which may be a term some of you are unfamiliar with, but hosted VoIP is in the cloud, voice over IP. And in its purest form, a provider of hosted VoIP might send an IP phone to a premise already provisioned for that particular customer, and call quality is 100% dependent on how good that local internet is. Works fine for a large pipe, does not work so great for small pipe. So that's another consideration. And you simply need to be able to decide whether you have the ability to sell and service a customer, or perhaps you can take advantage of a referral or affiliate program with a provider like Enuma to leverage your client relationships to provide services that perhaps are not your core competency. So You might have smaller businesses where it's affordable to provide, let's say, internet connectivity, firewall, that kind of thing, but perhaps setting up their phone system might be a little bit beyond your means, or might not be a great ROI for this cost of rolling a truck or sending a tech out. We have a program, for example, an affiliate program, where you would turn that lead or that customer relationship over to us, and we would handle the sale, close the sale, service, set up the customer, and you would earn the commission. So you have the opportunity, I think, in both being an expert in the domain or not being an expert in the domain, to take advantage of the opportunity with your client relationships. So I'm going to go do a little advertising about the company. So I just mentioned Ooma a couple times. We've been around for over 10 years. We're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We went public last July, a year ago July, on the New York Stock Exchange. Headquartered in Palo Alto, as I mentioned, and one of the things we're most proud of with our consumer service, the Ooma Telo free home phone service, is that we were ranked by Consumer Reports readers as the #1 phone service for the last 5 years in a row. We're beating some pretty big guys there like Vonage, magicJack, Cox, a lot of the cable companies. We were rated #1 in service and customer satisfaction, and that's something we're extremely proud of. And about 4 years ago, when we launched our business version of our voice over IP service, we started and now for 3 years been ranked #1 by PC Magazine, their business choice. So we're really happy about our relationship with our customers, and we have probably the lowest churn in the industry. People, once they get with Ooma, they stick with Ooma. There's a little more detail on how we rank among different players in this space. RingCentral, Cisco, Avaya. Our average service regard with readers has been very high, 9.4. So we're really, really proud of that. So going to the features, and this is, some of these features are common to voice over IP or hosted VoIP cloud providers. Some are unique to Ooma. So it's a flexible cloud-based platform. We offer, and many people offer, virtual receptionist, extension dialing, ring group, which is a cool feature that, particularly with distributed offices or distributed businesses, example of a ring group is at the IVR, your voice operator will say dial 1 for sales, and if a customer dials 1, it might ring 5 people that are on your call list in your company to make sure that somebody's going to answer that call. It might ring them all at once, and whoever picks up the phone first gets the call. So you can make sure that you're never out of touch with your customer. Conference bridge. Every extension in our system gets a conference bridge with 10 user room. We have music on hold, of course, and there's a lot of call forwarding options and other features. And we think we have a compelling value in our service being only $19.95 per month per user, and that reduces the overall average bill by 75%. So that's an all-inclusive price, by the way. For each extension, you get a virtual fax, which comes in really handy. Even though in this space, the small business space, and I want to emphasize this, I don't know what the penetration is of fax machines, but there's a lot of them out there. Probably the #1 request we get from business users as they come on board is, how do I connect my analog fax to your system? So there's a lot of analog fax out there. So we included a virtual fax to help get them more attuned to attaching PDFs or sending or attaching email documents, that kind of thing, in addition to a capability I'll explain later to use an analog fax.
Yeah. Well, Tim, I was just in a conversation earlier this week about tactics, marketing tactics, and actually sent out some direct mail, and that's what spurred the conversation with, good Lord,
sure.
Direct mail at $1.20 a piece. And I said, yeah, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised how that can work. And then I said, let's take faxing. Nobody does it. Faxing is like the one thing people might actually read, right? When you
have to be careful about there's some real strict regulations about using faxing for promotion. But I will say, and just an aside, that we've discovered, I don't know how many of you might sit in an office, and when you get mail, it's either, if you're getting mail, it's probably a paper bill, but when you actually send a written communication to someone anymore, it gets attention because people are used to getting letters.
Yeah.
So it's a nice clear space right now for marketing. So, I mean, going on here, number porting is a right of every individual or business. So we give free number porting when they transition from their current provider to Ooma. It's fairly painless and very quick. And with the simultaneous incoming and outgoing calls rolling over to voicemail, your customers will never hear a busy signal. That's really important. In a typical setup, let's say there's a pizza shop, for example, that had a 4-extension phone. That phone can actually handle 8 simultaneous calls on hold, juggle those, and any calls that roll on past that go right through to voicemail. So you never are presenting your customers with a busy signal, no matter how many extensions you've actually purchased anytime. So that's an important consideration. You pay for 1 extension, but you can handle 4 or 5 calls at a time. So one user can use with our system, and one of the things that we're particularly proud of is that unlike hosted voice over IP, which is most of the market, we're not restricted to only IP phones that have an IP address and are connected directly to the internet. You can actually use a mix of analog phones or IP phones, in addition, of course, to your mobile app, which I'll talk about in just a minute, and any remote phone. So you could have someone in your company have their cell phone as an extension on your system with its own unique extension, voicemail, and all the features, with no physical phone whatsoever, just their mobile service. So you can access on multiple devices. Pardon me. There we go. And again, one of our biggest advantages in dealing with this small to medium business or micro SMB business, you cannot count on fantastic internet quality to deliver good voice quality. So that's why we're really happy with the power of our box. This is an on-premise device, the Ooma Office base unit. There's a full router with QoS capability, which means that our technicians, if there were ever an issue with a line, can actually reach in real time, do remote diagnostics, change the quality of service setting on the device to reserve sufficient bandwidth for voice, so that no matter what else is happening in the background, whether you're conducting a webinar or you're downloading a movie or whatever might also be happening in your office, you won't have interference with your voice quality. That's really important in this small business segment. The larger businesses have great internet quality, they're paying for a big pipe, but the guys that we're targeting in this particular segment, they don't really have that capability, so they really need an on-premise device that is flexible to both IP phones and analog phones and can deliver pure voice sound quality. So this is the base station that comes with every account. It is a full router with 1 GB flash, has a decked radio, and I'll get to the reason that's important in a second. And it has full router capabilities for remote diagnostics. One of the other things that we're very proud of is what we call Pure Voice, which is with this device on premises, we can sense packet loss in the system, and if the system is having packet loss, the system will send 4 times the packets to make sure that there's no degradation in voice quality. So if there is 30% packet loss, for example, we can more than make up for that with what we call Pure Voice system, which is unique to Ooma. The other cool device we have, and this is if you're doing sales and install on small businesses, you pick up an opportunity to set up communications for, let's say, a small shop. You could easily spend $1,500 just running the networking cable around that office for something as small as 3 or 4 extensions. That's pretty prohibitive for that small business owner. That's a lot of investment and kind of takes him out of the realm of someone from whom to whom you can sell telecommunications or business communications. This little device here, which is unique to Ooma, is a Lynx. It is a DECT6 remote extension or remote phone jack. It is a unique device that is addressable with its own telephone number and extension on the system. So you can easily set up anywhere within 150 feet DECT6 range an extension, and it takes about 30 seconds to install. So you can set up 4 extensions in under half an hour on a physical premises with this and the base station, which is pretty breakthrough. So you're talking about that expense of rolling a truck. You can actually have this pre-configured in your office. Your technician visits the customer site and probably is in and out in under half an hour, having set up 4 extensions on premises. So we're really, really excited about for this, and so are our reseller partners. Our mobile app is state-of-the-art, both for iOS and for Android. You can make and receive calls from anywhere using local Wi-Fi or data LTE, 4G LTE data through your mobile phone. You save on your, of course, mobile minutes. Another cool part about it is no matter where you are in the world, if you have your mobile phone with you and access to data over the internet or local Wi-Fi connection, you can make calls as if you're calling from your business. So if you're making a business trip to Canada where the roaming rates, I can say, are very high. Whenever I'm up there, I use my Ooma mobile app at a local Wi-Fi hotspot, and I'm making calls from the U.S. Anywhere I need to make calls at no roaming costs. So it's pretty.
Yeah, Tim, I got to tell you a story. It's sort of in the VoIP realm, but many years ago, Jenny Hallmark of SMB Nation, Jenny took a physical phone handset up to Toronto where we were doing a 3-day conference and plugged it in to the jack, at the Microsoft facility for these very reasons, because, the mobile phone wasn't going to pencil out cost-wise. And then we had her extension. She could receive calls and a high-quality connection, but you speak the truth, sir.
Yeah, it's pretty fun when you do it. You really feel like you're getting a value when you've sidestepped those roaming charges on mobile. So I always feel pretty good about it when I'm making calls up there. So this is a free download. Every extension on your system, that user can log his extension in with this mobile app and have his information on the go and access to the system at any time on the go. So, flexible phone options. I mentioned the IP phones. We have a nice 2, 3, 4, and conference phone lineup of IP phones from Cisco and Yealink. Of course, you have analog phones, the option to use any analog phone, really, even a base with multiple extensions that you would buy in a consumer environment. You can connect to the system alongside an IP phone. So that flexibility is very key, and we think a key differentiator to both the ease of install, ease of use, and setup for our channel partners. And again, Ooma targets under 20 user installs. We're really at our sweet spot of 10 employee businesses in that realm for what we're delivering. Now, I mentioned fax earlier. The base unit, you could connect directly to a fax machine's analog signal, and voice over IP is not the most ideal interface with fax ever, and don't let anybody kid you, it's not that easy, but we think we do the best job of anybody in delivering that capability to translate a fax machine over to voice over IP connectivity. So again, you have that device on premises, you connect to a fax, but even if you have some issues, every extension comes with a virtual fax number. So you'll have the capability to send and receive virtual faxes right through your system with your fax logs, etc., right there on your dashboard. I didn't mention the Ooma Office dashboard, but it's incredibly easy to maintain and use. And again, to that end of making it really inexpensive to roll a truck or to service a small customer, you can sit in your office and pre-configure a customer in under a half an hour, set up all their extensions, and then when it's good to go, you just head right out, plug it right in at the client's premises. So onto our partner program, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a couple ways to go. You shouldn't let your perhaps lack of expertise or speciality in business communications hold you back from taking advantage of that with your client relationships. So after all, you've invested a lot in those client relationships, and you want to spread out the opportunity of your ongoing service and trust with your clients to provide as many services as you are confident in and for which you can be compensated, of course. So we have 2 ways to work. One is to buy, sell, and set up yourself, our reseller program, partner program, but also we have a referral program, and I invite you all to contact us and learn more about those. In the referral program, you would simply extend information or an introduction to your client. We'll handle the sales support, helping to inform them about how it all works, help them get set up, transact with the hardware, get that all delivered, and you sit back and earn the commission. So it's a pretty fun process from that perspective. That relationship includes lead registration, so if you give us a lead or a client, it's protected to you for a period of time, of course. And we have a pretty responsive and experienced channel team with a lot of training now ongoing since we've launched. And that's the full half hour. So.
Well, there we go. Well, we have a few questions.
Sure.
The first one is, what is the size of the box? And I think the context is the base unit.
Oh yeah, the base unit is about an 1.5 inches tall, 4 inches deep, maybe about 6 or 7 inches wide. So it's very small and compact. And I'm looking on my background slide to see if I have a close-up of the box. Well, actually, okay. Let me go back to.
Yeah, you kind of showed it at one point.
I did. I showed an exploded view. So this would actually be, this is it in context, so see, relative to an iPhone or have you. Very small, wide footprint. Not very intrusive at all. Very, very small.
Yep. And I actually have one, so that's exactly right. In fact, the box that your product ships in is a relatively small box.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got a few more here. Let me shift through these. This is a good one from the audience. Ooma is known for its consumer phone service. Why did it enter the SMB space?
Well, what we found out was a surprisingly high percentage of our users were actually operating businesses, a lot from their homes, some from small business locations. And we kept getting requests for more features that were, a lot of our engineers, not surprisingly, came from Apple or Cisco. So they'd done a little bit of work in business telephony in the past, of course, and so we were getting these requests were piling up. So they decided to launch, and particularly launch at the smaller end of the market. We felt that we built a great interface that was easy to use and high quality for low cost, and so we wanted to leverage that DNA in the company. And I think the viewers will be surprised when they first interact with our web page on setup and how easy it is and intuitive, not difficult at all, to do it yourself if you wanted to. They actually designed it. The engineers designed the system for a business person to set up their phone system themselves. What we have discovered, and while there's some enterprising folks out there that love to do it themselves, when it comes to business communications, they really want to lean on a trusted professional. While they may be able to, set things up themselves, they're certainly smart people, having set up and started to run their own business. For things like business communication, they want somebody that's that's in the business, that really knows what they're doing, so they can have confidence, particularly with communications, which is so business critical, of course.
Yeah, exactly. What are for the partners, resellers, VARs, VAPs, consultants, MSPs, computer guys and gals on the call today? What are some of the demand triggers for your product? And I'll tell you, back when we started this journey to kind of marry voice and data in the SMB Nation community, moving was one that we all landed on. And if an office is moving from building A to building B, you'll often see an upgrade in the phone system. I'm just curious, what do you see out there?
Well, actually, a lot of in this space, the below 10 employee space, a lot of it's new businesses, and I think the government tells us there's about 6 or 7 million new businesses started every year. I think a similar number close every year, not always the same ones, but there's a lot of new businesses starting up. And I recall about 7 years ago, before I came to Ooma, I had a few businesses that were my own, and one thing I recall wanting to do was, I was entering a market, I wanted to appear much larger than I really was. and I had a system. This is before Ooma launched its business system, but I recall having a system with 5 extensions on it. The auto attendant said, dial 1 for marketing, 2 for sales, 3 for the lab, etc. They all rang to my cell phone, of course, but I could tell when they were coming in where it was coming from, and to my mind, it made me appear to be a much bigger entity than I was, because I wanted to instill confidence in my prospective customers that it wasn't just a guy with a cell phone, which it kind of was at the time. So that's one of the drivers. I mean, a new business, also that mobility. I mean, in my business, I was out on the road all the time, so I couldn't be there all the time to answer the phone, and I wanted the flexibility to have my business system on premises where my business was located, but also to follow me around as I travel, as I called on customers, what have you. I never wanted to be out of touch with my clients and potential clients, particularly at that time. And then, of course, as you said, you have that transition, the growth and flexibility and growth of a small company. Many small companies will start simply being mobile only. Then they got to find a way to knit together the different people who are working with their cell phones into one unified communications. And that's one of the biggest buzzwords in the industry right now is unified communications as a service, marrying voice, email, subscription to software in the cloud, etc., as one unified system, and that's kind of where we're headed, both Ooma and a lot of other players in the industry.
Yep. Boy, a couple questions rolling in. So straight up, what's the cost? And like the monthly fee, the base unit, that kind of thing. What's the cost?
Right. The base unit and 2 links is a package, is what kind of we sell as our starter kit. You'll see it at retail anywhere from $150 on sale up to $249. In the reseller channel, we make sure that you have protection at that lower end of the price range. So you'll be selling to your customers as low as $149 for a base unit and 2 links. And we want to make sure that you're always competitive with anything anyone might see online or in the retail channel, because the product is available, some portion of it is available in the retail channel. Unique for the partner community, however, are IP phones and some of that extra service that goes with it. So we have both a wide footprint in being available in some retail situations, but we also have a lot of protected space for our partners that gives them key differentiators versus a customer going and doing it themselves online. And we never ever want our partners to be undercut by a retail channel, because we really want a successful channel. So that's the device itself, and then the monthly I mentioned is $19.95 per user, and each account starts with a free toll-free number that comes with every account. Each extension, as I mentioned, gets a virtual fax, of course its own phone number, direct inward dialing phone number, a virtual fax. Each extension on the system gets a conference room, and of course I did mention unlimited calling in the U.S. and Canada from any extension, and then a whole list of features including auto attendant, voice on hold, or music on hold, multi-ring, ringing your cell phone and your business phone at the same time, or ring groups, and there's a number of other features involved in there. It's an all-inclusive price, and so it's very easy to communicate to the end user. All those prices, of course, I should mention, before government taxes and fees. So there's still a few dollars on top of that Uncle Sam reaches in and takes for things like universal service fee and 911 fees, etc.
Okay, Stephen asked, do you have a link to your reseller and referral program? Tim, I'm happy to get that out in the thank you email tomorrow, and you'll have a chance to interact with the attendees. But so Stephen's asking for a link. Fair question.
Oh yeah, it's right on our homepage, up in the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner. There's an application there for resellers. Just give us some quick information about yourself, and we'll probably follow up same day. I think in most cases, if not within the hour. So yeah, we have a great team that does outreach to our partner community, and so we'll get back to you right away.
Okay, Bill's asking, what training is available for resellers and partners?
Yeah, right now we do a regular every other week webinar for sales training, and we've just added a technical training every 2 weeks as well. The sales training is pretty much how to sell Ooma, and I can give you kind of a quick preview of that. You know, it's key selling, what happens after the fourth concurrent call. This is a quick preview of some of what we do in the sales training. I just queued these up just in case I got a question like this. So it's the basic how to sell, what the functionality is, what the calling features are. And then we have, in the sales training, we actually have a couple of use cases from successful partners who have permitted us to borrow some of their best practices to spread out among the community. And so we share those with our partners as well. And so we've just launched the partner program this year. So we're learning a lot, but so far the reviews from the community have been pretty strong. We're pretty happy with the results so far. But we'll probably be stepping that up to weekly as we get more critical mass. But right now it's every other week, both on sales training and every other week on tech training. There also is, of course, a dedicated inside support team. You have a dedicated number where I'm trying to get them to guarantee that, make sure that someone live in the USA always answers. And so far during business hours, that's holding on to be the case. So we haven't flooded those guys. It's a testament to both how easy this system is to set up and use and understand, and as much as the quality of the system itself. But we have people standing by, ready to assist our partners in the field at any time. So like the way right now we run it is like 9 to 5 business hours for voice, and then we have run 24-hour chat support. So
yeah, very interesting. You made a point. I didn't realize your partner program was new. Again, we interacted a couple of years ago on the Windows XP migration tour. We were telling your story.
Right.
What was interesting about that tour was that lunch was customers and the evening was partners. I didn't realize. Forgive me. I didn't realize maybe the partner program was that new to Ooma.
Well, actually, I should say it's modified, or we relaunched it. We did launch a partner program a few years ago, and we did fairly well with it, and we were happy with it. But one thing that for a lot of reasons we couldn't do was be as competitive as we'd like in compensation for channel partners. There's, since we went public, some things have changed with us, and so one of the outgrowths of that was that we could better afford to reward channel partners, and so that's part of the reason we kind of huddled up and reconfigured and essentially relaunched our channel program this year. So I'd say when we launched it, I see it kind of as a fresh start, if you will.
Well, I got to tell a Seattle joke. If you're going to make mention of going public, hopefully there's someone on your staff that has a very nice Bayliner motor yacht that's named IPO down in the harbor. and that my friend, is a little Seattle humor.
Yeah, there's a few of those around. None in our company, but.
Here we go. Well, we're fresh out of questions, which is great. That means we've kind of covered off on the conversations presented to us. So, maybe if you want to make sure your slide is up with your contact information.
Sure.
Folks, we'll be getting you a link to the replay of the video so you can rewatch this and some other relevant information. So I'll get that out to you tomorrow, a thank you letter. And next week we have StorageCraft with SaaS backup on next Thursday. And hey guys, before you know it, it's going to be the end of the year. I mean, boy howdy, we're in December. It's 1 month, literally December 1st, 1 month left. So, Tim, thanks so much for dropping by and having a conversation with us today. And we'll be sure to get out information to the audience.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Harry. Have a great holiday.
Well, hey, yep, everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.